What's up, man?
How you doing, brother?
Good, and you?
Good. Just making sure this is all set up. Okay, I
This
think
is
we're
all
good.
set up.
Good,
Where I
man.
catch you right now? I mean, I know you travel like crazy.
Yeah, where am I?
Yeah, where are you?
I'm in Michigan.
Michigan. Awesome.
Yes, sir.
How's life? Everything is good?
Everything is wonderful.
Thank God
Same old,
for
same old.
thank God for that Facebook Live. If not, I would not speak to you. You're so busy. Um,
Yeah.
but thanks for joining. Look, about what is it now? A month or two ago, we started to go live with a bunch of ADC dancers, people that I think that have quite a bit to say. And I'm very happy to introduce you to our fans, most of which already know you because you've been coming on ADC, what, 3 years now, 4 years now? And
3 or 4 years. Yeah.
3 or 4 years, definitely noticeable from your workshops to your very special and interesting performances on stage. But before I keep going on and on, because I have so many questions for you, if you don't mind, take a moment and introduce yourself and what you do to everybody.
So, hi everyone. My name is Marc Brewer. I'm a dancer based out of Michigan, the Detroit metro area. I specialize mostly nowadays in Kizomba and Brazilian Zouk, but I've also competed professionally in bachata and salsa, American style ballroom, and a lot of my shows in the past have been kind of fusion performances of all of the above dances. So, yeah.
That's quite a bit. And anyone that ever watched you perform can tell that you have all of that crazy and amazing experience that you mentioned. So if you don't mind, first of all, what does that mean, fusion?
Yeah, so generally speaking, fusion, if you're just using kind of the dictionary definition, is just a combination of any various styles, right? So you can mix hip hop with contemporary, you can mix ballet with Brazilian zouk, you can mix paso doble with Argentine tango. So just taking characteristics and elements and basic steps of any particular dance style and combining them. I think what you see nowadays is a lot of the fusion that the work that I've done is kind of dictated by the music, right? So a lot of music nowadays is borrowing from different elements, combining different rhythms and things like that. And so trying to use your musicality as a choreographer, as a social dancer to embrace the different elements of the music and also embody that as you're dancing.
And again, everybody that watch your show and your work can tell that you have all of that experience. You know, all these Latin dances that we're promoting and dancing and love so much, if it's salsa, bachata, kizomba, zouk, doesn't matter. They're all like street dance. Is that correct? Yet you have more training. You mentioned ballroom, you mentioned contemporary. How important you think is for a professional dancer to have that kind of experience and training in order to really excel in their career?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. I think it depends on kind of what the definition of professional dancer is,
Okay.
which I mean that would also be very different from the performance world versus the social dance or partnering world, right? So those are two different things. There are lots of us, I think, who tour and we travel and things like that, but maybe they don't perform on stage. Maybe they're more well known for their teaching aspect, or maybe they're more well known for their prowess in social dancing. Some of us are more well known for closing shows and getting standing ovations and things like that. I personally believe that all of them are valuable, but particularly if you're going to be on stage, if you're going to have performance teams, if you're going to teach multiple genres and multiple styles, it's just good to have that education, have that knowledge, have that training, have that background, whether you use it every day or not. It just enables you and makes you a more intelligent dancer so that when you get questions from students or other professionals, you're better able to answer those. So I try and train and just learn as much as possible, just in case, just to have that knowledge, because it helps you explore artistically, helps you create different things, and helps you understand more of what you're seeing as you're dancing. So,
Once a student, always a student, right?
of course, absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely.
How long you been dancing?
I've been dancing about 11 years now. Yeah, started with salsa 11 years ago here in Michigan, and just started kind of as a hobby. It was actually a first date when I went to a salsa class. And then I was always the type to really focus on one thing at a time. Before dance, it was martial arts. And when I started dancing, just focusing on that, taking maybe 2 classes a week, going out social dancing once a week, practicing once a week. And then it just kind of took off and things transitioned, and yeah, now here we are.
So how was your introduction to salsa? Like, what's your story? Everybody has a funny story about how they got introduced to salsa, right?
Yeah, this is funny because I don't think I've ever said this publicly before. So yeah, I was at the typical kind of top 40 club bar, dancing with some friends, mutual friends, and I was dancing with one young lady, just kind of doing a 2-step or whatever. And she said, "Oh, I belly dance, I salsa dance. You should come out dancing with me. You seem like you have rhythm." And I thought she was cute, and I was like, "All right, cool. Let's make that kind of our first date, like to go out to a salsa class, actually, not even a club situation." So we went to class, and I fell in love with it right away. Fell in love with the rhythms, fell in love with the music and everything, and so I've been dancing ever since. I haven't taken a break.
Fell in love so much that you said, "I'm gonna go ahead and take a class as an adult, as a a person."
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the transition from salsa to everything else that you do, I mean, ballroom, and then zouk and kizomba. Now you're very much known for your zouk and kizomba more than anything, and of course, all of your experience in the ballroom world. How?
Yeah.
What's going on?
So, yeah, that was quite a bit of a different transition. I think my partner I was competing with at the time, Sarah Zakarl, she's based out of Chicago now. You actually took a really good photo of us. I don't know if you remember, at the Chicago International Salsa Congress, and this had to have been like 8, 7, I don't know, a really long time ago. Wow. I still have it as one of my profile pictures, but we were competing in salsa, competing in bachata. That was kind of where we grew into, and then she started teaching at a ballroom dance studio, and we performed our routine at this ballroom dance studio as part of their showcase event, and people loved it. Everyone loved it, kind of our salsa cabaret style fusion. And so I very quickly got recruited by that particular ballroom dance studio. "Hey, why don't you come work with us? Why don't you come teach with us? We'll train you," and things like that. "You don't have to book any clients. We'll give you students." And for me, I was kind of in a transitional period at the time, and I didn't have a lot of formal training beyond just the kind of typical salsa classes that I was taking. So I said, "Oh, okay, I'll go here. They're going to teach me how to dance. They're going to give me students. I'll learn the business of dance so that even if I do this as kind of a side gig later on, I'll understand the business, because ballroom dancers, they're making money from dance if anyone is." And so I was like, "All right, let me try this for a few months, and then I'll kind of go back to kind of what I was doing before." And then just kept doing it. Got sucked into it, and shortly after I started doing ballroom, I started doing zouk and kizomba. And I think amongst the salsa bachata world, it was kind of that mix of all those different elements and dance styles, and me being able to understand kind of what the salsa bachateros were looking for, but also being one of the pioneers to help introduce and present to more people what Brazilian zouk is, what kizomba is. I was just kind of at the perfect place at the perfect time to make a lot of that work. So
that range of dance, like from zouk to kizomba to contemporary ballroom, and of course salsa, that's cool. Martial arts, you mentioned that. How did you incorporate that into your dance? I know a lot of great dancers love the fact that they have the basics, and or maybe even more. I don't know what belt you're in, but martial arts helps quite a bit, right?
Yeah, so I did mixed martial arts, so I did everything. I did Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Jeet Kune Do, Kali Eskrima. And for almost 6, 7 years, I was doing martial arts very, very heavily. And kind of got to the point where you get to that point always where there's kind of a ceiling there, and it's like, okay, how far do I really want to take this?
Yeah.
And I knew I didn't want to kind of get into a cage or anything, and so then that's when I started to transition to dance completely. But there's a lot of overlap between the martial arts community and the dance world. And beyond specifically trying to put martial arts into my dance, there was a lot of training from martial arts, from sports, that was directly applicable to dance, and being able to improve faster, whether it's knowing how to train or just even discipline and attitude.
Exactly.
Like, I go to class, that's a huge thing. And taking things seriously, kind of when you're practicing, when you're working, when you're training, agility and strength and flexibility and all those things. I'm still, even with all the cabaret stuff, I've never been in as good of a condition as I was when I was doing Muay Thai, and I was training to kind of spar with other guys. So yeah, that did a lot for me, and I can usually tell on the dance floor with other people, especially if they have martial arts training, because there's a way that
Totally.
you move, there's a way that you react, that really transitions. So it was great.
Same with
They're really
ballet.
good hobbies. Yeah, yeah. Same with ballet. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Now, I mean, you get a lot of love here on Facebook. So many people appreciate what you do. And Tino, I'm sorry, mentioned that you're one of the most technical instructors, and technicality of like knowing all the like in and outs and being very technical. And it's so important for the type of performances that you put together.
Yeah.
How come you're so technical?
Yeah, I think so. Some of it is just how I approach things. So that's just how I operate. What is being technical is just more of a process,
Mm-hmm.
kind of an understanding of this comes before this comes before this. So I kind of feel like just a general philosophy that I have for life is there's always a pathway to get to a certain goal, right?
Right.
Somebody has done it before. I'm not, and none of us are creating really anything that's brand new. And so once you can see kind of the pathway, then it's easy to just duplicate it and put in the work. But you have to understand that process of A to B to C to D to get to kind of that final goal. So for me, as far as dealing with students, especially when it comes to pure just dancing and being the best dancer you can be, okay, I always ask my students, what is your goal? What do you want to get out of this? Whether it's private lessons or a group class, I set a goal for them. And then it's, okay, how do we get there? What is this process going to be? And all of my training that I've done has not only been for me, but also to be able to speak to any different type of student and whatever their dance or learning language is, right? Some people are more visual, some people
Yep.
are more kinesthetic, some people need to have it explained to them in words and more technically. So for me to try and learn all those different styles, so at any point in time I could have a student that needs a particular thing, and then I can teach them in the way that's going to be best for them, not necessarily the way that's best for me,
Right.
but the way that's going to communicate to them quickest whatever they need to know. So that's kind of where the technique
in a
play.
world that everything is instant, everything is immediate, people want to learn fast, and you've been teaching for quite some time. People come to your studio and, hey Mark, that's great, I want to perform next month, or something similar. How do you explain to them the importance of discipline and technicality and graduating and working on the basics when all they want to do is dips and tricks like you because they saw you last night performing?
Yeah, that's a tough thing, and I think the biggest, like the quickest comparison is like, yeah, when I don't do much ballroom anymore, but when I used to, we would have like wedding couples and things like that, and they would want to come in and do some amazing.
We're getting married next week. We want to do the
Yeah.
same show that you just did.
Yeah, and like, okay, we're gonna get 2 lessons, and then we want to be performing, and we want to do a 10-minute song.
Right.
And it's like, whoa. So yeah, I think the best thing you can do is just be honest. And the other thing is, like all the competitions that I've done and the performing, and it's hard to speak from a place that you're not knowledgeable about, that you're not, to come from a place where you're not knowledgeable. So I've tried everything, and the reason why I've done so many styles and competed and performed and teach everything and travel and learn from everyone is because I want to come from an informed place, so that when I tell a student, hey, you aren't ready for this, they'll listen because they've seen that, oh, you do these type of tricks, you've been there, you've done that. And so you just gain some credibility when you communicate with people, if you actually are putting yourself out there and doing the work and trying yourself. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then just to be honest, and if that results in, I mean, I'll lose students sometimes. Oh, you can't teach us all this crazy stuff, or you're saying I'm not ready for that, but this person will teach me. I'm like, all right, you can go ahead to them. And I think that's the other thing. If you know your genre good enough and you develop a good enough reputation there, then you can just do that and not have to worry about I'll take whoever's going to come to me. because if I'm known for being technical, then other technical people will search me out. So I think when you're really honest about what type of instructor you are, what you're trying to communicate, and really focus on that, then everything else kind of works itself out. So
honesty, not just agreeing with everything that they say, take their money, and then obviously see them not reaching their goals. So
yeah, that doesn't work.
that doesn't work. Not in the long run. You mentioned
Right.
competition. How did you like that experience?
I loved it. Competing's interesting. For me, competing is about the process to getting there, and that might be a little cliche. A lot of people might say that, but that's truly
The journey, not the destination.
the
Yeah.
outcome. I really don't care. I don't like to lose, but I also like winning isn't a huge high for me. If we do well, then great. Yeah, but it's more, what type of dancer am I going to be after this competition, after having gone through that process of preparing for this goal and for this journey. So I competing has been really, really good for me, just from a training perspective. And this is coming from somebody who's generally motivated. So I didn't really need it to kind of be motivated, but just to stay structured, just to stay focused and make sure I was pushing myself the best way I could. And then also just a great learning experience, I think, competing. So I try and encourage a lot of people to do it. I know it's not for everyone, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
What kind of dancer you will be after, but also, you know, going through that process, you change as a person. Every time you face a challenge, I'm sure you experience that in martial arts and everything else, like even learning salsa, feeling stupid at the beginning, yet keep on pushing.
Yeah, it develops discipline, develops good habits. It invites you to interact with, whether it's different coaches, different judges. I mean, I've trained with literally regardless of the genre, kind of the best of the best in all different disciplines. And competing was a really good part, was a big part of that, because it motivated me. Okay, I need to spend this money because we need some help on this part of our choreography, or we need to have another set of eyes that have been here, that have done that before. So just going through that process, even just from a networking perspective and everything else, seeing your other competitors kind of going through the same process and encouraging each other, supporting each other. Yeah, it was great. It was a wonderful part of my dance journey.
How was your first performance, your first show?
The first, wow, I have to think. That was in Reno, I think. The first, well, no, the first show was actually probably me performing with my salsa instructor at the time, my first salsa instructor. So that's kind of an assistant performance. I was leveling up a little bit, and she kind of did that as a way to push me a little bit further and give me another set of goals at the time. And that was more of a freestyle thing in a small local kind of fair. So it wasn't too nerve-wracking. And I think that was probably a big part of me continuing to perform, was that everything was done at the right level at the right time.
Right.
So maybe that's an important part of this. Like it was a small art fair in front of kind of local friends and family, and wasn't anything too crazy. And so things escalated at the appropriate rate, and I wasn't thrown out there too soon and left with a kind of bad taste in my mouth because I was trying to do too much too fast. So that might be a good word of encouragement for anybody who's watching.
Yet, no matter how much you train and practice, even if you're ready technically on paper, so to speak, or the first time you stand on that stage and the light is in your face and so many people, how was that experience to you? And did you had any situation where you messed up, you drop, I mean, I hope you didn't drop your partner, but like you had like a severe situation on stage?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've done this so many times over the past 11 years on so many occasions on various level stage. I mean, I could have stories for literally hours.
Share with us the best one.
The best story, I don't know. I mean, Kiri and I, we freestyled like the second half of a cabaret routine once.
Wow.
So I mean, with all the list and tricks, because we lost our orientation. We were in a room with a bunch of mirrors, and so the mirrors kind of threw us off a little bit on one of our circular movements. And so we had known each other and had been doing this work for so long that we literally just freestyled the second half of a cabaret routine with all the lifts and tricks and everything. And the audience still loved it, and nobody noticed anything happen. So that was a pretty cool experience. But I mean, there's always unexpected things that are going to happen. I performed recently, and the DJ didn't cue the music at the appropriate time. And so we had to kind of do something different at the beginning and just make it work. I think for myself and my partners that I've had in the past, our goal has been to prepare as much as possible and use preparation and training and practicing to not only calm our nerves before we perform, but also to get us to a place where we can go up there and anything could happen. Something's wrong with the floor, somebody's shoe pops off or whatever, and you're still able to continue going and continue being professional and to continue working. So things will happen. We've botched lifts and tricks before, and sometimes this is kind of a secret for the really high level performers that are doing cabaret stuff, that are really, really pushing themselves. For some of us, we choreograph things just in case things go wrong. So it's like this trick, maybe I feel sick today, maybe we're fatigued, maybe we get tired, maybe the boat's shaking and we lose our footing or whatever. So just in case this doesn't go right, how are we gonna make this work? Kind of prepare yourself for the worst case scenario sometimes, but hope and wish for the best. So that's what we try and do.
And I'm so happy that you said that you had so many failures, because nowadays when you perform, you get standing ovation and so many people admire your work. But I think it's important also to share with people that, you know, sometimes it doesn't work out and you keep on pushing. So what did you learn from these scenarios? Did that got you like to work harder at practice or feel more comfortable when it happens?
Yeah, of course. And it goes back to kind of making sure that you're putting yourself in situations for success, right? Mm-hmm. So I try not to overreach, even in everything that has been done and accumulated. It's been years and years and years of doing that and building on that and always pushing a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. Then jump out the gate trying to do too much right away. But then when something happens, you kind of have to look back and you have to reflect. And it's like, okay, we lost this competition and we weren't prepared, and this is what everyone else is doing, and this is what we were doing, this is who we were training with, this is who they were training with. And so you always have to be kind of reflective of where you are and what you know and how you prepared, and then what you can actually change going forward, and then just decide to put in the work. So,
and you mentioned that even though you messed up on stage or during one of your competition, people still smile and were raving, you know, and cheering for you.
Yeah, of course. Generally speaking, people want the best for you, and they're there because they want to see a show, they want to encourage you, or because they support you, and all those kind of things. So I'm usually the hardest person on myself, the hardest critic, and so it's just a matter of releasing that energy, and just knowing that people are there with you and that they support you and that they want to see you do well, and just to give your heart out. So that's all you can do.
Right. To all of your fans, I think it's interesting to know what goes through your head when you put a routine together. You're the choreographer in most cases, right, of your routines?
Yeah.
So how do you come up with a concept? How much you think about it? Then, I don't know, you imagine it, how hard you practice, everything you can share, you know, from A to Z till you're actually on stage.
Yeah, so it's a lot that goes into it. And I'll just ramble some things off, and then I'll kind of try and make it a little bit more cohesive. Some of it is just kind of where I am creatively at that moment. What am I feeling? What mood is it? Do I want to have something that's really dramatic and heavy, or do I want to have something that's more joyful and playful? A lot of it has to do with my partner's strengths. I see that a lot with some choreographers where the leader is doing more of the choreo, that they choreo more to themselves and not as much to the person they're dancing with. So I really try and choreograph more for my partners than for myself, and try and just meet their level of where they are and kind of what they're doing in their technique. That I found that has worked well for myself and my partners before a lot.
So understanding the strength and weaknesses of your partner.
Yes, okay. and then choreographing to that, right? Mm-hmm. Why am I going to put us on stage in an area that's not our strength, right? That unless there's some other reason, maybe there's another reason. But if the goal is to like have the best show possible, or have them be the most comfortable that they can be in that situation, then it just makes sense to work towards your strengths. Some of it, music is a really, really important thing. I'll listen to songs for years before I'll decide to put one on stage a lot of times. And so it has to really be a song that I don't mind listening to 5,000 times, because I'll do that. I'll go to the gym for an hour and just listen to that same song. I do a lot of the choreography in the gym, actually, when I'm sitting down and I don't have anything else to do. What else?
Practice.
Training.
How much you practice? How hardcore? How mean are you to your partner?
We practice as much as necessary. Some routines take more than others. Generally speaking, it's interesting how much they improve over time. Learning the timing, learning when to breathe. I think choreographically, I've always been really, really ambitious with our performances, and we're gonna push for the moon. We're gonna try to make this as big and as bad as we can possibly do it, and then we'll scale back once we see certain things aren't working. But we don't come from a place of, oh, let's just try and do something average. It's like, no, let's really try and do our best, and then, okay, if we really aren't doing well with certain things, let's change this to make it better. We use the audience like a little the same way comedians do, how they'll test certain bits and comedy, and then they'll see what gets the reaction and then kind of twist and adjust things. We do that all the time. So if we see there's some part of the routine that's really getting a big reaction, we kind of really focus on milking those moments. If we see that there are things that we thought the crowd would react to that they aren't, okay, maybe we should change that part to make it a little more entertaining for the audience. So things like that. So balancing your own where you are creatively within yourself, plus also knowing that you're entertaining someone. So it's not just about you, it's also about the audience, and you're trying to contribute to whatever event you're performing at. So balancing all those things together.
You mentioned working out. Is that a big part of the process for you to perform and be the dancer you are?
For me, it was, but that was purely from doing the cabaret and exhibition arts and the theater arts and all the lifts and tricks and things like that. And I mean, the other thing is, working on the gym isn't necessary. But if you want to do those type of overhead presses and one-arm presses and things like that, I mean, there's some people that'll say anybody can do any trick, but it's just not true. Physically, you have to have a certain amount of either flexibility or agility or strength or power or speed or whatever to do certain things. And so if you want to do those things, you just have to keep your body right, keep fit. And it's a process. It's not I'm going to do this because we have this one routine. It's a lifestyle of day in, day out, steadily having to keep that up, especially if you're performing every weekend and teaching all the time and things like that. You have to really keep up with it. So it's something you really have to commit to.
Working out and diet, I assume, right?
And diet also, yeah. Yeah, diet hasn't been as hard for me. I was a little blessed in that regard. But yeah, I try and to stay fit whatever way I can, especially when you're traveling on the road. And
I was just about to say that with a lot of dancers that I speak to, like yourself, I want to bring up the fact that you travel, because like if diet and eating healthy is hard as is because of, you know, everything that is out there, when you travel is even harder, you know, and just the options are less. So
yeah,
you don't give up.
No, yeah, I mean, you have to study, and there are always people more informed than you about all this kind of stuff, right? And so talking to other people that are specialists, and this is just part of the equation. Since I started dancing, I've learned so many things about things that I really wasn't interested in before I started dancing, and even when I started dancing, you know. I own maybe, I don't know, half a dozen dresses, like sparkly ballroom dresses and things like that. I mean, what am I going to do with those? But it's just part of the process of being an entrepreneur, of being a brand, and all this other kind of stuff. And so you learn things about nutrition and keeping your body together. You learn about all this stuff. And so finding people that specialize, and it's just a part of the work once you get to a certain level.
Right. So in a hard shift, let's talk a little bit about Kizomba. For many people, you're a guru of Kizomba. You're one of the most known and appreciated, I should say, more than anything, instructors, back to the technicality and everything that you teach. How do you like Kizomba today? How did you like it before? Kizomba is growing quite a bit right now. It's booming.
Yeah, Kizomba grows really fast. I think the business analogy would kind of be like there's low barriers to entry for Kizomba, right? So and it's kind of the opposite issue for Brazilian Zouk. So if you look at a dance like Kizomba, what I found for people just surveying the public, they see Kizomba and it just looks like people are walking and hugging is what it seems like to a non-dancer's eye. And so a lot of people will try it just because it seems something within the realm of their possibility.
Right.
But then you have a dance like Brazilian Zouk on the opposite, which you see all the shaping and the hair whips and the body movement and the spins and turns and things like that. And so there are people that'll never try it from the beginning because it looks a lot more difficult, and so they shy away from it. So those two dances are a little bit on opposite ends of the spectrum in regards to that. I love Kizomba.
Kizomba and Zouk. I meant you're really well known on both Kizomba and Zouk. I forgot to mention.
Yeah, and I'll speak about both. I love Kizomba. I found it quite a bit of time after salsa, after bachata. But I found that one of the reasons why I dance personally is not for stage necessarily, but it's more for social dancing, improvisation, and connecting with people. And amongst the dances that I've done, Kizomba in particular is one of the more heavily connected, whether you're referring to physical connection and just where you're touching with the body and how many points of connection you have, whether you're referring to how synchronized you are in your movement, right? So you take a dance like salsa where you're doing shines and you're separating, we can both be really connected with the music, but maybe we're also really connected just more internally with ourselves, and our partner's doing one thing and I'm doing something different because we're not physically connected. But you take a dance like Kizomba where you're spending so much more time with more points of connection with your partner, it just allows you to get more in tune and more in sync with them in that regard. And that's just something that I personally enjoy when dancing. So that was what initially kind of just made me gravitate towards it, was just that love of that connection, and then starting to teach it and travel and learn more and things like that. So
I remember a long time ago when I took a couple of classes of tango dancing. One of the hardest things that was for me, we were so close with my partner that you cannot see what's happening, underneath your feet, anything. So it's really all about, the grip, the hold, the connection, like you say. Is that the same with Kizomba?
Yeah, I mean, you have that non-verbal communication.
It's all with the hand, basically.
Yeah, and you have to be able to feel that. In all of my instruction now, I teach a lot of kind of different layers of contact and connection and different layers of sensitivity. I think that's a big part of being a really, really good dancer. The more sensitive you are, the more you can feel this happening, the more receptive you can be of information. So then the more you can process and interpret, right? But if you have like the touch is a sense just like smell, just like sight. So if you have kind of a weaker sensitivity of touch, that's going to be hard to communicate things to you non-verbally unless I'm really like pushing and pulling and things like that. So that's something I constantly train my students in a lot in private lessons. But once you can be that sensitive, you feel, oh, there's so much that's happening, so much movement that's going on. I can feel when my partner's weight is on her heels versus on the balls of the feet versus on the inside edge, the outside edge. And so when you gain that level of sensitivity, then you can start to adapt more, to play with off of your partner more, to create more intricate movements. So it's something really good to train in.
No, that's great. I'm still missing my first class of Kizomba, but one day I'll work on that too. I cannot let you go before asking you really quick about your ADC experience. If you remember back then, 3-4 years ago when you came for the first time, how did you like it?
I loved it. Loved it. I think ADC, there's something really special about that kind of destination travel experience that you don't get with just a normal Congress and a normal event. And I formed some really, really amazing bonds with people in the community from traveling together and experience and being on the road together, being on the beach together, and being able to see and do some amazing things. So I've enjoyed it quite a bit.
Awesome. Thank you. A lot of people, I don't know if many knows, but you are a huge help back behind the scenes. Besides performing and teaching and being a part of the event, you also help us a lot to keep on growing the Kizomba and Zouk community and experience, I should say, more than anything on our ships. And I'm very excited for what's coming up in June for Cuba, and then DR in November. And how can we make the experience even better for our Kizomba friends and Zouk lovers on ADC, of course? Besides, I mean, I don't know what can trump dancing outdoors and seeing only ocean, but what else can we do?
Yeah, I can tell you the things that we've really appreciated in the past, like having the dedicated areas for us, and that spot we've had on the back deck of the boat for so long to be able to see the sunrise and the sunset and experience the ocean and dance under the heat. It's been a great experience. So we've really enjoyed that dedicated space and that consistent schedule. We've also kind of made a habit of when we have our shore excursions, kind of trying to find a location to really dedicate music to us, and all of the locations we've been to have been very gracious with appreciating. I think I lost you for a second. Are we back?
Yeah, we're back.
Appreciating our business there, and so we've always kind of tried to make an occasion of that and throwing our own little kind of private parties in those instances. I think continuing to dedicate your resources as an event to bringing in artists and DJs that'll continue to recruit more dancers of those genres, continuing to give us time and space. If the occasion comes where we can have bands that are dedicated to that also, it would be wonderful. But it all kind of is based on how the resources are sorted out. Just continuing to allow and facilitate that space for us, and encouraging and promoting that side of the dance also. We really appreciate it.
I'm very excited about these ideas, and I'm very excited that you brought up the special private events in those destinations, because we need to speak after this live feed, because we have dedicated shore excursions on both cruises, both in Havana in June and also in Ember Cove, Dominican Republic, that I want to incorporate some artists and DJs and bring music and do like take the shore excursions, as amazing as they are, and add the dancing elements. And everywhere we stop, some ideas that I want to run by you, but I think you're really going to like it, especially in June and DR.
Awesome.
Very excited. So what's next? You performed, you competed, you teach, you're traveling every week. What's next for Marc Brewer?
Yeah, right now I'm in Michigan, and I just kind of opened and started a school here, and so I'm really focused on dedicating more time to this particular area at the moment, and teaching and really growing the dancers here and training, and eventually starting more performance teams here and things like that, and focusing as much as my resources as I can on the community and really trying to grow the community. So that's the goal and the focus now. And I think later in the year I'll be judging some competitions and things like that, and continuing to try and help spread the word of these dances, and hosting different retreats and more intensive experiences where you can really kind of focus on one style, on one set of instruction, and grow that way, I think is the goal for now.
Awesome. That's quite an amazing goal. For everybody that want to follow you and stay in touch or ask you question, how can we stay in touch? IG, Facebook, website?
Yeah, so my website is www.marcbrewer.com, MarcBrewer. You can also find me on Facebook. I have 2 profile pages on Facebook and also a fan page on Facebook. And you can also find me on Instagram, Marc_Brewer, and follow me there also. And I'm going to try and be better at updating and sticking with my social media. I'm not the best at it, but I'm going to make a good effort at it.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. It's been like 4 weeks or so that I've been trying to get us here and share your experience and your amazing story. Looking forward to see you in June. And thank you so much, my man. We will see you soon.
Thank you, brother.
Take care. Bye-bye.